So we're down at Holwell at the moment with all the guys, and they are starting to rip out and re-level essentially all the beds that we had left in from last summer's crop. The process of that involves essentially ripping out the old crop with the tractor. So we've got silage forks which will rip out all the older crop, the bigger stuff that is, and then that will be dumped into a trailer and taken to our dumping site. Once the crop has been ripped out by the silage forks, we'll start to get the roller in, and that just mashes up anything that's left in the bed and pushes all the gravel to the bottom and a lot of the mud to the surface. That helps us get a nice smooth bed before the guys will then jump in with the rakes and the pitchforks and the hose. This just is to get the finer bits out which are left behind from the tractor. So that's just to get rid of all of the finer crop and some of the weeds that will be left behind because they often don't get picked up by the tractor. So when the guys get in with the hand tools, they'll often rake it into the piles. This just helps us collect it all together. Then someone will come along with a pitchfork to then remove them and chuck them in the back of the trailer. The guys will also go down the walls with some hose, and this is to get a lot of the grass that will be growing out of them and the other weeds, because they tend to persist throughout the season. But if we get rid of them now, we often find that they won't creep back quite as much. We look to get rid of all the weeds we can at this time of the year. That's just to make sure that we can limit the amount that are going to be popping up throughout the season, because obviously we're completely pesticide or insecticide or herbicide free. It means we can't spray anything, so we have to make sure we get everything now. So getting rid of the weeds now is ideal, because come harvest we want to make sure that there's no weeds within the beds, because they'll get caught up in the harvester and this will cause rejections because they'll end up at the consumer's depot. Once we've got all the weeds out and the bigger parts of cress, we'll then start to sweep down the beds, and this is just a process. We use the dingo here and a couple of guys with brushes. So this is literally just we flood the bed and come down with the brushes, and this just pulls down a lot of the silt and some of the smaller debris that will be left behind. And ideally this will be to just get the beds just to gravel and whatever sort of larger cobble that we have in the beds. So the importance of sweeping down is essentially to get rid of any debris that will be left in the bed, and this includes silt, smaller bits of cress, smaller bits of weeds, and essentially there's a big contrast before the brush and after the brush. And after, we want it just to be clean gravel, and we'll use all of the water we can to really get everything flushed out the bed. We want a good clean bed because that will just help us with the leveling process. If we have anything left from the previous year, it will just lead to growth happening that isn't from our seeds that we're drilling. So it's essential to get it spotless just for an easier growing this year. So after we've got a clean bed, we will start the leveling process. So we'll chuck the roller back in, and that's just to get it nice and flat, and that helps us with getting an even flow of water once the lads start to rake down again. We use the roller on the beds just to really firm and compact down anything that's left from the previous year, and that will just help us get a better crop come this year. So after we've rolled the bed, we'll go in with quite a thick brush on the back of a tractor, and that is just to rough up any of the looser gravel and also pull up a lot of the material that's been swept down during the cleaning process. And that's just to ensure that we've got enough material evenly spread throughout the bed. Getting the material back up to the top of the bed is essential really, because if we have too much gravel or ballast towards the bottom, we'll find that the bed will start to pool water, which is just a catastrophe when it comes to growing seedling crop here, because wherever the water isn't level, you're going to get too much and essentially flooding, and that will cause any seed to just die out essentially instantly. So making sure we have a level bed is essential really for growing seedling crop at this time of year, because without a constant flow of steady water, certain parts of the bed will die before others, and without getting it up level, you're going to have problems during at harvest when you've got crop that's long and crop that's short, and the yields will be absolutely destroyed. So once we've been in there with the tractor, with the brush, we'll start to assess where in the bed that we need potentially more material or even less. The guys will jump in with rakes, and they'll start to spread out what we've got in the bed. And once that's happened, we can then really make a decision on what needs to be done in terms of, will we need more gravel, will we need more ballast, will we need to remove some material, and that depends from bed to bed. So one bed may need tons of ballast and a bit of gravel. The bed next to it may need a lot removed. So it does depend on bed to bed, and yeah, that's where we have to sort of then to make a decision to see what's right for every individual bed. So once we've added or removed however much material and are happy with the beds, we'll then be able to start to look at drilling. Currently we have 3 beds ready to go. that side of the farm, and they have only been finished either today or yesterday, and they will be drilled tomorrow morning. So we are at the moment quite up against it in terms of time. We're right on sitting on the deadline, and we have plenty of beds to clean down before the end of this week, which all need to be drilled. The reason that we're so up against it in terms of time at the moment is we've been trialing a new type of growing, which is for IQF, and that has put us right up against it at the moment because we had to delay everyone being here, and that's led to obviously it just being in and out as quick as possible. We've got everyone, all hands are on deck at the moment. We've got distribution, obviously all the growing staff. We are very much on it, but the other factor at this farm, there's a lot of sort of hidden issues that you may not be able to see at the sort of glance of an eye. There's a lot of soft spots. There's a lot of gravel in these beds, which is challenging in certain ways just because it makes it really tough to grow. These beds down here in Cranbourne are quite different to the ones that we usually operate around. They're quite old school beds in the sense that they're very long and narrow, which is one of the aspects, and often we find a lot of soft spots, which is a frustrating factor when you're using a lot of tractors and more heavy machinery. Around here, there's a lot of hand work being done, so there's a lot of hand raking and hand shoveling, whereas on other sites we'd often be able to do these jobs with the telehandler, tractors, or any other type of machinery that we have lying around. It's just one of the other factors which doesn't help with time. It does slow us down, but the more staff we have, the easier it usually is. We're hoping to see the build-up of the beds improve with all this effort and work. The sort of 7 or 8 beds to the right of me, they've been leveled by us maybe 3 or 4 times now. We're starting to see that all of this sort of extra attention to detail and sort of slightly new methods that haven't been used here before are starting to translate to a better bed base and therefore better yields. So we're looking to get these beds up to a certain standard that we have on the rest of our farm, so that could include the ones in Hampshire or in the rest of Dorset. That's just sort of consists of firm beds, minimal leaks down the walls, you know, and just a really sort of nice and tidy operation across all of our sites. We're putting in a lot of hard work now, but we're hoping that that will end up with us in a few years having really nice beds that are a lot less tedious to get right and should deliver a high yield consistently. So yeah, it's going to take a few years to get everything sorted, but we'll definitely get there, and yeah, there is light at the end of the tunnel.